Memoirs of the Clouded Kokoro.
It was a ghastly tale of a winter's night. One of an invisible killer and a crime perpetrated on the pavement along Briar Road. As the victim lay at death's door, the mystery of just who had stabbed the young lady from behind had been resolved. But no sooner had my friend saved that Eastern Exchange student from his harrowing plight than in the dim, flickering shadows of gaslight did a second bizarre crime rend the stillness of that very night. I dare say most can still recall the sensational headlines of the day. Haunted apartment of death, the condemned criminal's curse, the dread demon of coal gas. Yet, though the great detective had at once discerned the truth upon his arrival at the scene, it only proved to be the overture that announced the rising of the curtain on a most tragic play.
You know, I was wondering last game why we met some random dude dressed up as a clown and then never ran into him ever again. I thought that was super weird, so I guess we're gonna find out here. I believe that was Natsume-san's other housemate, so the Garadebs, and his Soul Rock and Lunatone, if you guys forgot. There was also the guy, the theater/Renfest dude, that lived, I think, on the first floor, and then Soseki was on the second floor? Something along those lines. But remember, we interrupted an argument between a small Popeye dressed in yellow and the Jester guy, and that we never saw either of those characters ever again. So I guess we're gonna learn more about them here. But anyways, hello everyone, Allie here, and welcome to the Gold Mine. If you're wondering who this disembodied voice was, that was yours truly, of course. Did not introduce myself. Got distracted by the clown guy. But thank you for joining me here on another episode. Getting into episode number 23 here of the Allie Plays August Takeover. You know, obviously at the 25th of August, so definitely leaking into September. Quite some amounts. Not sure exactly how many days we're going to carry over into September, but we're definitely going to go ahead and finish up the Great Ace Attorney 2 Resolve here on the channel before this playthrough is called Quit. So we're going to, of course, get through both games here in the Chronicles, see how long it takes. Those of you who are my patrons over on Patreon, make sure you go vote. I put up a poll last week asking what you'd like to see for September's schedule, because, of course, this was the August takeover every day for the most part. Uploads here of the playthrough. Want to know if that's what you guys want to see here through the end of the game. Asking if you guys want to see maybe, you know, some different days of different content, back to regularly scheduled content on top of all the playthroughs, or even if you guys just want me to regulate Allie Plays back to Thursdays, let me know over there. Go vote in that poll. And of course, you guys have other commentary. Feel free to leave that in the comments down below. But we are getting started here on in-game episode number 2, Adventures, or the Memoirs of the Clouded Kokoro. Already forgot the official title of this episode. We are on Investigation Part 1. So, we were just playing as Susato as Ryutaro, of course, disguised as a gentleman, as women are not allowed in the Japanese court during this time period, defending her friend Rei. We ran into Soseki-san, who had something to tell us, but he did not get the chance. And Susato's dad is also hiding something. So we're having a flashback to that second case. Apparently that happened. Something to do with Soseki Natsume here, so I'm curious to see if he's going to be accused of murdering somebody again, or if it's going to be dealing with that housemate in any capacity. Do not remember the voices I gave the guy in the yellow shirts, like I said, the small Popeye-looking dude, or the clown guy, so we'll wing it as seen fit. But my name is Ryunosuke Naruhodo. I'm a fledgling lawyer, just starting out on my journey. 6 months ago, I arrived as a visiting student of law, having made the long voyage across the sea from the Empire of Japan to here, London, England. And on the way, in quite extraordinary circumstances, I made the acquaintance of a world-famous detective. His name is Kermit the Frog. A little bit weird, but he has a cool outfit. Currently, I reside in the attic of the detective's own lodgings, from where I run my legal consultancy of sorts. I've successfully defended a number of clients in Britain's highest court, the Old Bailey. But since a particularly grueling and unforgettable legal battle 4 months ago now, I haven't returned to the courtroom. In truth, I lost my right to return. That epic trial was just one small part of an epic tale, a tale which was now about to awaken from slumber, thanks to a letter that arrived this morning from my homeland. Alright, so we're gonna go over, I guess, Susanto's notes. Yeah, Ryunosuke, you better fix that. Go eat something, dude. I'm sure Iris has something downstairs. You can't just be walking around rumbling like that, my dude. What a delicious smell wafting up the stairs. It must be nearly time for breakfast. Better go down to Mr. Sholmes' suite and say good morning to the great detective and his flatmate, which is also a 10-year-old. A little bit weird, but no funny business. I trust Sholmes. I trust him. Probably a little bit too much, but I like the guy, what can I say? It's 7:28 a.m. here in Sholmes' suite. And also, one thing that tickled my brain while I was watching that's the voiceover of, I'm assuming, Watson. So, Iris, or perhaps it's supposed to be Wilson. Perhaps supposed to be. I'm used to Sholmes and Watson. Or Holmes and Watson. Herlock Sholmes has butchered my brain. Because now I think that's just what his name is supposed to be. But it's not. It's supposed to be Sherlock Holmes. But sometimes I accidentally say Holmes because I'm like, oh, Sholmes. I'm like, no, Sholmes is the right one. We got to take off the letter. And it's like, no, actually, Sholmes is the incorrect version. My brain's getting all mixed up here. It's all Kermit the Frog's fault. But listening to that voiceover, I was like, huh. So that's where the inspiration came from. You know, instead of filming like I wanted to, I was working on like a 2-minute voiceover for like an hour before I got started. So I meant to get started on this actually Tuesday. It is currently 12:07 a.m. Whoop whoop. Your day of upload, so I hope you guys enjoy it. My intention was to record 2 episodes tonight, but it's already the morning. Just because Wednesday is going to be very, very hectic. I have the triple case opening in a little bit from when you guys might be watching this. If you get the little notification, click on it right away. Triple case opening a Chrome Galaxy. So I have to open that, and of course I have to list all of that. Have a box of Elements Football, box of Certified. Have to finish up that little thingy I was working on. That is a video going up on Thursday. Super important. Make sure you check out Titan Cards on the Thursday. You know, there's not normally content over there, but this is special mystery reveal. Yes, I worked hard on it. Like I said, put 2 hours worth of work into the first 2 minutes of the video. Then I got to figure out what I want to do with the rest of the video and work on that on Wednesday. Anyways, long story short, I will let you guys know in the community tab if we have an Ace Attorney video on Thursday or not. We'll see how this goes. If this is like a 2.5-hour episode, I'm probably not filming after this. Probably going to go home and sleep. And then it's all dependent on whether or not I wake up at the butt crack of dawn to record. So we'll let you guys know in the community tab whether or not I'm taking a break on Thursday. Anyways, back to Sholmes' suite here. Ah, Runo, good! I'm so happy whenever Iris starts off with her first sentence either having Susie or Runo in it, because that's how I key into her voice. Ah, Susie! And Runo! Sometimes I just go for Iris sentences, and if it doesn't have Susie or Runo in it, it doesn't sound like the southern voice I gave to Iris. Anyways, I was just about to call you up to you. Bacon's ready. Good morning, Iris. It smells delicious as usual. Before we eat, though, I have some news. I had a surprise this morning.
Shh, not another word, Mr. Naruhodo! This could be just the abstruse thing for my pre-breakfast stagnation-repelling mental stimulation, my dear fellow.
Morning to you, too, Mr. Sholmes. I was talking to Iris over here before you rudely interrupted.
Ah, yes, I see, so that's it!
A little personal space, please. Very handsome fellow, but I'd like some space.
The truth is clear to me as day. My faculties of observation have revealed it again.
Maybe I should redo my voiceover work in Kermit voice. What are you talking about?
You, Mr. Naruhodo, you have, this very morning, met with a surprise! Well, is that not the case? Really, my dear fellow, it barely warrants explanation. Firstly, your hair is particularly unkempt, somewhat reminiscent of a bird's nest. Secondly, you have neglected to fasten the third button of your jacket. Clearly, when considered together, these 2 facts point to you having been flustered this morning.
Can I talk now?
No. But of course, though I don't look for admiration, you understand.
My hair always looks like this. It's been this way since I first met you.
No, it has.
And the button was ripped off last night, if you remember. By you. Oh? Oh? Excuse me? Excuse me? Well, okay. What are y'all up to? Need the info, I need the info. Hurley pulled your button off!
Yes, I recall the incident now. It was after supper, was it not? And as the evening advanced, I picked up my violin and began to play the wailing notes of a haunting tune. But then, to my utter dismay, the third string snapped! Why did it have to happen? All around me are familiar faces. Little wonder then that in my vexation I grabbed the first button I saw and ripped it from its proper place.
Well, I'd like it back now, please. It's troubling me that I can't fasten my jacket.
Then it's troubling me that you expect me to know where it is. Somewhere thereabouts on the floor, one presumes.
Helpful.
What matters at the present time, my dear fellow, is simply whether or not my deduction was unerring.
But Hurley, Rudo said it when he came in, didn't he? And I had a surprise this morning. Cheating fool. Cheating.
Well, that really is a surprise.
This man doesn't listen. Somehow still cheating. Yes, this man is the pride of the British Empire. The famous consulting detective, Mr. Sherlock Holmes. Oh, Jesus, stop posing. Stop posing on us. There can't be a single person in the world who doesn't know his name. Yeah, well, that's what Susato said, and you didn't know who he was, so. All right, then, enough of this silly conversation. Come and eat this bacon before it gets cold. And I have a new herbal tea for you to try, too. My latest special blend. It was special for me, not for Gregson, haha. And here we have Iris Wilson, Mr. Sholmes' lodger and companion. A truly exceptional young girl who's the author of a highly successful serialization here in London. Yes, The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes is published in Rance magazine.
So, Mr. Naruhodo, won't you put us out of our misery? What surprised you this fine morning?
Well, I received a letter from Japan. Oh, from Susie, you mean? Was it really? That's right, and she had some rather startling news, in fact.
Intriguing indeed. You must tell us all about it over breakfast.
Oh yes, what fun! Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Why does he have a bust of Napoleon? Alright, let's talk about Miss Susato's letter. This is the letter that arrived from Japan this morning by international post. Oh, how lovely! Look at Susie's beautiful writing! I wish I could read it. Come on, Iris, you don't know how to speak Japanese. Come on, Iris, you know how to do everything else. What a failure.
And how is your judicial assistant faring, may I ask?
She's very well, thank you. In fact, according to what she's written, she actually appeared as a lawyer at the Japanese Supreme Court and won a case. Ah, really? Oh, isn't she wonderful?
Cut above your good self, my dear fellow.
I've won cases too, you know. Apparently, Mr. Natsume appeared in the trial as a witness.
Natsume! No, I don't recall that name.
Of course you do! We helped the man. Twice! You know, in those 2 cases that took place on Briar Road 6 months ago?
The mustache twitchy man with the somewhat feline eyes and the mustache.
He didn't have 2 mustaches, Hurley.
Yes, who could forget those 2 cases? They made a very deep impression on me. Although I must confess the details are a little hazy now.
A very deep impression they made on you. Clearly.
Startling news. So, what was this startling news penned by Miss Susato?
Do you remember the case of the haunted lodgings, Mr. Sholmes?
Yes, it's very interesting, you know. And I don't feel entirely uncertain that a case of that nature did not occur.
He's totally forgotten then. Anyway, in her letter, Miss Susato asked that we read over her case notes again and investigate further.
No, it took place half a year ago. For what purpose?
Because of something that Mr. Natsume said to her, apparently. He suggested that the real reason why she was called back to Japan so suddenly might have been something to do with that case of the haunted lodgings.
No?
On Mr. Natsume's return to Japan, Miss Susato's father questioned him about the case, she says. And something Mr. Natsume said apparently appeared to trouble Professor Mikotoba, prompting him to send that telegram. Oh, that case, yes! It was very strange, wasn't it? Yes. And I compiled the whole story into a nice, neat manuscript ready for publication, too. But that Hurley here was all funny about it, remember? He was very mean. That story must not be published, you said. Very mysteriously as well.
Really? I said that. Are you sure?
Do you perhaps know something about it as well, Mr. Sholmes? About why Miss Susato was suddenly told 4 months ago that she had to return to Japan? As Lord Chief Justice Strongheart is sus AF. Or not, maybe. Anyway, Miss Susato's repatriation. It's been 4 months now since we waved Susie off at Dover. 4 months since we got sued by the train company. It was such a shock, wasn't it? The way she just suddenly announced that she had to go back to Japan.
Indeed it was, due to a telegram she received from her homeland, I believe.
That's right, telling her to return urgently.
Yes, because her father had passed away.
No, it just said he was suffering from a high fever, the cause of which was unknown. He's not dead. Even though they did fake us out in the intro to the game, I was like, oh my god, Susato's dad died, and it's like, nope, just Kazuma's grave. That apparently nobody knows about. Government secrets. Kazuma is now a classified government secret. But according to this letter, that news about her father's fever was just a ruse. A ruse? So Susie's daddy lied to her so that she'd make the voyage back home? Why would he do that? I have to admit, I have absolutely no idea. But she believes it's almost certainly related to the case of the haunted lodgings. Summoning her back to Japan so suddenly like that. I wonder what Miss Susato's father is hiding. Hurley, do you know what it's all about? When'd you put your jacket on?
Well, who can say?
Apparently Sholmes is my mom now. I don't know why, but I feel like there's a period in my life, like 2 years, where my mom would just reply to any question, oh, who can say, just to needle people. I don't know why. And she's gonna watch this video and I come home and be like, how was your day? Oh, who can say? It's gonna start all over again now. Sholmes, it's all your fault. What? But you said, you can say, tell us!
Please, I have engagements, my dear fellow. My calendar is quite surprisingly full today. Any stringent analysis of the matter would be excessive, I feel, even if I'm quite at leisure. So, man the fort in my absence, won't you, Iris?
I will, Hurley, don't worry. See you later.
I must leave to flee all responsibility.
He scuttled off rather quickly there. And I think perhaps Professor Mikotoba isn't the only person hiding something here. So Seki-san was involved in 2 cases, but only one of them was forbidden from being published. By, of all people, Mr. Sholmes. Aha! I found them at last! Iris! Are they... The notes about the case, that's right. Susie and I compiled them together. The case of the haunted lodgings. Do you want to read them, Runo? Yeah, that'd be great. Absolutely. Thank you, Iris. Yo, this soundtrack is fire. I have no idea what secrets could still be hiding in the shadows of this case. But perhaps if I read over the notes again, something might come to light. That's the spirit! Do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do. And so, Iris and I decided to read over the case notes again together. Everything from what happened to our investigation and that fierce battle in court that followed. Reliving every detail. I just need to find a clue, and I have all the time in the world. Because of course, this is a video game. Now I'm no longer allowed to practice law in the courts of Great Britain. I played a government classified secret music box. And I got fired, and yet I still run a legal office. And it was 6 months ago, a mysterious incident that unfolded on the wintry streets of London. A young woman was found lying on the snowy pavement of Briar Road with a knife in her back. Fortunately, her life was spared, but she was unconscious for several days following the incident. The fog was thick and nobody saw her attacker, but by a cruel twist of fate, a visiting Japanese student was walking behind her at the time and was duly arrested. That man was Soseki-san, and the man who effected his arrest was Mr. Sholmes. Believing in our compatriot's innocence, Susato-san and I decided to represent Soseki-san in court. And after a grueling trial of many twists and turns, we finally managed to prove his innocence.
Joyful, joyous, jubilant, jubilation!
Was the man's reaction after the trial, but his jubilant jubilation was short-lived. We received a telegram from Mr. Sholmes the following morning. The victim of the Briar Road stabbing has regained consciousness. Hurry to Bart's at once! So Susato-san and I summoned a hansom and headed immediately to the hospital. Get this rat out of my hospital! Excuse me? There's a rat in my hospital room? Alright, so apparently it's the 21st of February, 5:30 a.m. St. Bartholomew's Hospital Recovery Ward. Can I investigate the rat?
There you are at last!
Good morning, Mr. Sholmes.
I think not.
Oh!
You're late! What on earth took you so long?
Your telegram only arrived at 5 o'clock, Mr. Sholmes, and it's a 20-minute ride to the hospital. That's right, and it's 5:30 now. I think we made very good time.
The time is utterly irrelevant. The fact is, I have been waiting for what has felt like an eternity. In point of fact, I myself was awoken at 4 this morning by a telegram boy, and feeling it was somewhat unjust that I alone had been roused at such an hour, I sent one to you.
Sharing is caring. Well, thanks for that.
Anyway, you're here now, so the victim is over there. She's only just regained consciousness. You should introduce yourselves, and I shall observe from here.
So that's the lady who was found on the snow-covered pavement with a knife in her back. Her name is... yes, here we are, Miss Green. I think if I remember correctly, her name is Olive Green or something weird. Olive green is one of my favorite colors. I would like to examine the rat. Oh, I can. Eek! A mouse, Mr. Naruhodo! An enormous mouse! Vermin in a hospital. Oh, that doesn't seem the best. But it looks like a very healthy specimen, doesn't it? It's very plump. I'm not sure we can say that's down to the excellence of this facility, if that's what you were thinking. Alright, I've investigated the rat. There are lots of bottles in that cabinet, aren't there? Do you think it's safe to keep them like that? If you were a patient here, I feel sure you'd take some medicine by mistake when you were half asleep. That is a worry, but at least the cabinet has a lock, even if it's only a flimsy-looking one. Oh, I've no doubt you'd manage to unlock that somehow while you're half asleep as well. There are limits even to what I can do when I'm half asleep, you know, Miss Susato. I like how this has essentially the same skin as the other hospital, with the cracks in the wall and whatnot, just different furniture, and a rat, obviously. Ah, this looks like the patient's treatment notes. Let's see. Do not feed. I have no idea why they put that very fine-looking young lady on a diet. That's rude. What is this place, a zoo? Oh. I was not expecting to have to say that line at 12:25 a.m. That's kind of rude, Ryunosuke, jeez.
You know, I seem to remember seeing an almost identical sign in our local park.
For the pigeons, yes. This is a person. Poor woman, I hope she hasn't read this. Alright, what other... Well, welcome to the gold mine, everybody. This is a gold mine. There's a little Buddha statue.
Oh, this resembles the shape of the victim.
I swear, if this is just... The whole examining of this hospital room is just fat-shaming. Anyways, this rounded wooden figure isn't the most charming, is it?
Ah, I don't think that's a decoration, Mr. Naruhodo. It's an artist mannequin, I believe, used when practicing sketching the human form in different poses.
Really? It's not exactly what you call a typical figure for that purpose, though, is it?
No, I suppose not. I confess I've never seen one quite so full-figured before.
Well, if you want to draw a full-figured person, it's the right tool for the job. There's a picture frame. Look, there's a photograph. Look at this photograph in this frame here.
Oh yes, it's a picture of a young gentleman.
He looks to be about the same age as Miss Green, I would say. Perhaps the young woman's special someone, do you think?
My Mr. Naruhodo, I didn't know you had a sense for matters of the heart.
Not in the least. I sincerely said the first thing I thought of. No, I wanna look around. I wanna click on more stuff. Alright. There are all sorts of medicines in this cabinet, look! I'm not sure if it's safe leaving them in reach of everyone like this.
Yes, you're right. I can imagine if you were peckish, you might try a whole bottle or two.
Well, at least there seems to be a little lock to secure the cabinet doors.
I don't imagine that would stop you if you were hungry. I worry that you'd break the lock.
Hunger doesn't turn me into a criminal, you know, Miss Susato. Ah, this looks like the treatment notes for whoever's occupying this bed. Let's see. Do not permit to run around the hospital.
The patient doesn't seem to be here at the moment, so...
He or she is probably running around the hospital then.
Oh dear! How worrying!
What's worrying is why they haven't discharged the patient yet. You gotta get the money. You gotta milk them for all it's worth, Ryunosuke. Come on. Alright, let's talk to Miss Olive Green here. Good morning. Hello, I'm, Ryunosuke Naruhodo from the Empire of Japan. Alright, what voice should I give you? Oh no, was it your knife that... Are you the man who... No, I'm a lawyer.
And I'm Susato Mikotaba. Pleased to meet you.
Oh no, was it your knife then? Are you the one?
No, I assure you, I'm Mr. Naruhodo's judicial assistant. We heard that you regained consciousness and wanted to come give you our best wishes.
Best wishes? For me? Thank you. I'm Olive Green. I'm an artist. Well, no, that's not right, is it? What I mean is, I'm trying to be an artist. Well, what I really mean is, I desperately want to be an artist. But the truth is, I don't have any talent. I know I don't. It's no wonder I was stabbed in the back. I don't think that's related, actually.
Gosh, this young woman seems to bend over backwards to put herself down.
Susato, quit making me talk smack about myself in my own videos. We're talking about Olive. We're not talking about the omniscient voice overlord. Seeing as we're here, we should ask about what happened from her perspective, I suppose. I guess her hair does look like a little paintbrush handle. To be suddenly struck in the back by a blade as you were walking along the pavement. What a terrible experience you had, Miss Green. It was so cold that day, and the fog was so thick, I couldn't see a thing. That was 4 days ago now, I think. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. I'm afraid you've been comatose all that time.
The case has been solved, hasn't it? While I've been here in the hospital, I mean.
Indeed it has, my dear madam, spectacularly by none other than I, Herlock Sholmes.
I somehow forgot he was there.
Mr. Sholmes, as you well know, it was Mr. Naruhodo's hard work in court that solved the case.
Are you yet to hear what happened, Miss Green?
Yes, I'm afraid so. A gentleman from the police force is supposed to be coming to fill me in shortly. Oh, I see.
Me coming round seems to have made everyone frantically busy. I'm so sorry. I should have never regained consciousness. It was all selfish of me.
Oh no! We're also relieved that you're on the mend, Miss Green. Really, we are.
With that kind of attitude, maybe her surname should be Blue, not Green. Haha, funny. So you're an artist, are you, Miss Green?
Oh no, I couldn't possibly claim that. I'm a fledgling artist at best.
I mean, I'm a student of art, really, at the Thorndike Academy of Fine Arts.
Oh my! An Academy of Fine Arts! Great Britain is such a wonderful country!
Tell me, Miss Green, do you live hereabout?
Oh no, actually. I don't deserve it, but I have a little flat on Brixton Road.
I see. How very interesting.
Oh no, is it?
Brixton is some 10 stops away on the underground from here. And Thorndike Academy is a mere 3-minute walk from Brixton Town Center.
Does that matter, Mr. Sholmes?
Perhaps not, but Briar Road is a far less salubrious part of town by comparison, dwelt in by those of inferior means.
Like how the rat is perfectly framed in his arms.
Including the maleficent Mr. Mustache.
Inferior means, I suppose Soseki-san does fit the bill.
It struck me as somewhat out of the ordinary for a young fine arts student to be walking in such a district. That's all.
What's this? She's suddenly clammed up.
Mr. Sholmes, you should be ashamed of yourself prying into a young maiden's private affairs.
Oh dear me, do forgive me.
If you don't mind. I'm being discharged shortly, so I need to pack up my things. Oh yes, of course, we won't keep you. Thank you so much, Miss Green.
Is there a Mr. Naruhodo here? Mr. Naruhodo!
Naruhodo now? Well, if you're looking for Naruhodo the lawyer, that's me, but...
Ah, Mr. Naruhodo, good! This is for you! It's a message from Mr. Saucy Nutmeg.
Excuse me? Saucy Nutmeg. Soseki Natsume. Okay. Wow. Okay. Mr. Natsume sent a message to me.
But why would a policeman be delivering a message from Mr. Natsume?
Exactly. What's going on? What's a Scotland Yard constable doing playing delivery boy at this time in the morning?
Nah, what are you waiting for? Let me see that.
Oh.
Well, this is most unexpected.
Is something wrong, Mr. Sholmes?
Is something wrong, Mr. Sholmes, he says. Have you not seen this note? It's in Japanese. I can't read it.
No, how could I? You took it out of my hands.
It would seem that London's criminals have no intention of letting the great detective rest. A new case calls, a case of murder no less. We must depart at once.
Murder!
Call a cab, time is of the essence.
But the trouble is, we've yet to read Mr. Natsume's notes. I was thinking we ought to pay him a visit in his lodgings once we did.
That will be entirely convenient.
Convenient? What do you mean?
It's all here in the note, my dear fellows. The murder we must investigate took place at Mr. Mustache's lodgings.
Wait, what?
I'll hail a figer once. I don't know what that word means, but I'll hail one. Hail Mary, just like football, whoop whoop. Worldwide Susato.
It was only yesterday that Soseki-san was in court and we were dispelling doubts about his innocence. And now, the very next day, There's a murder at the man's own address? He may very well be the unluckiest man alive. Or so it seemed to us at the time, but we were soon to discover it was worse than we thought. Alright, about 2 hours later, it's 7:18 a.m. On the ground floor. What? That explains why we never saw him again. What on earth?
Oh my! That gentleman is deceased without question. He's dead.
Welcome soon, Mr. Naruto Esquire.
Mr. Natsume!
Oh, why? Why is this happening? Why to me? I've only just got out of court yesterday. I was finally home after 2 days of misery. And then I wake up the next day to this. No early bird should catch a worm like this. Woeful worm without wiggle. I see you're in high spirits again this morning, Mr. Mustache. Ah, not the horrible Herlock Sholmes. Shoo, shove off. Show yourself to the door. I never invited you.
Mr. Sholmes came here with us. I'm quite sure he'll be able to help you, Mr. Natsume.
I'm entirely at your disposal, Mr. Mustache. What can I do for you? Grrr.
Here they are already. The busybodies.
No, Inspector Gregson, what a pleasant surprise.
Pleasant, is it? Gives me heartburn every time I see your face at a crime scene, Sholmes.
I deduce, Inspector, that your heartburn is a result of your excessive consumption of fried food.
Good morning, Inspector.
This is a crime scene! Don't you go touching anything!
Or good morning to you too, Sunshine. Natsume has it rough.
I just got out of jail, and now I woke up next to a dead guy. I know he was weird, but I didn't wish him to be dead.
Alright. Talk to Gregson after I click on everything.
Oi, I said hands off! You're gonna mess up my crime scene!
Oh, no, I just wanted to look, that's all.
No chance! I know you're kind! You'll mess it up just looking at it!
Nah, someone's in a bad mood.
There's certainly some bad air in here, isn't there?
Alright, it sounds like I'd better talk to the inspector first and try to curry some favor. Alright, so I can't click on stuff unless I talk to Gregson. So, Inspector, what was the victim's name? Who was he?
Mr. William Shamspear!
I wish you guys could see me face palming.
He was a lodger here! Now you can probably tell he was an actor! A bit of a dead loss, or as it seems, or just dead. Mr. Shamspear! It was the landlord, old Mr. Garrideb, and the other lodger, Mr. Natsume, who found him. The fella didn't rise at his usual hour, so Garrideb got worried and kicked the door down.
But doesn't Mr. Garrideb have a bad leg?
Ah, yeah, you're right there. It was that jittery Japanese hunchback over there who actually did the kicking.
Really? So Seki-san?
The victim was pretty hard up, it seems. Even done some time inside for petty crimes. He had no money, no place to go, and no friends. His only acquaintances were the people in this house. Miserable life and miserable end to it.
So, what exactly is Mr. Natsume still doing here? He's not involved in the investigation, so shouldn't you have sent him away from the crime scene?
Well, I'm not saying it's because the fellow looks odd or anything, or that he acts suspicious, but I thought it would be prudent to take a statement from the, cohabiter.
You nearly said culprit there, didn't you?
Oh dear! Mr. Natsume appears to be under suspicion again.
It certainly seems that way. He does just come across as an odd fellow, doesn't he?
Poor man. How unfortunate.
Let me get some water.
Anyway, I can't say much until the coroner gets here. But I don't think the fella's been a goner that long. The body's still warm.
Even if the inspector would allow it, I don't think I could bring myself to touch a dead body. Alright. Can I click on stuff again? No. Alright, everything's just checkmarked off. What's over here?
Oi! I said hands off! I was just clicking on the arrow. Jeez, Gregson, chill.
Oh, no, I was just wanting to look.
No!
There's certainly some bad air in here. Get it? Because there's no windows or air circulation, so it's stuffy.
Alright. The candle. Alright, he just has a weird stage setup. You know, what's up, Soseki? What a terrible thing to have happened.
It's only been 3 days since I was arrested for the incident on the pavement outside. And then, having finally regained my freedom, it starts happening all over again. Endless existence of excruciating experiences.
So the victim lived here on the ground floor, and your room is just one story up, isn't it?
Yes, that's right. In a way, we were neighbors, I suppose.
So did you know the victim? Were you friends?
No, he was really weird.
You okay, bro? What's the matter with Soseki-san now? It was an innocent enough question, wasn't it? Why does he seem so shaken up by it?
Well, I suppose he wasn't a complete stranger. But he did ever invite me to his room? Never! On my honor, I swear it!
What an extreme reaction! You're probably wishing you'd never asked now, aren't you, Mr. Naruto?
When we found him here, I felt wretched, which is why I sent word asking you to come. Through that inspector over there.
Herlock, what are you doing? Mr. Sholmes, what are you doing?
You need only observe to know it, my dear fellow. Investigating, naturally.
There's nothing natural about that pose.
Mr. Sholmes, have you made some miraculous discovery?
Patience, my dear madam, patience. We've not been here in this room 5 minutes. So far, all I've managed to deduce is what actually happened.
My goodness! But isn't that everything we need to know, Mr. Sholmes?
I haven't discovered anything, Susato, except I solved the entire mystery. Nothing important, no big deal. Now that you proposed the idea, I believe one could indeed see it that way. At the present time, I have managed to draw 2 incontrovertible conclusions. The first was that there was a physical struggle here last night in which the victim fought for his life.
Mr. Natsume, what's wrong? Is something that Mr. Sholmes said significant somehow?
No, don't mind me. Forget I was here. I only got into a fist fight with him last night and might have strangled him on accident. And my second conclusion is that there was a poison lingering in the air here last night that passed the victim's lips. Nonsense!
All right, Mr. Natsume, why are you reacting so extremely to Mr. Sholmes' deductions?
No, please, pretend I'm not here. Invisible, ineffable, inscrutable, insignificant.
Impossible to ignore.
You must tell us everything, Mr. Sholmes. Spare no detail.
But of course, let the theatrical tragedy before us be unraveled by my great deductions, presented for your pleasure in 2 acts.
We've heard some truly astounding great deductions from Mr. Sholmes in the past. No doubt this will be no exception. What miracles will unfold before our eyes this time?
So, my dear fellows, for your delight and wonder, let the curtain rise. For Sherlock Sholmes, Logic and Reasoning Spectacular, Act 1. The game is afoot.
Cause of death.
Careful observation of the victim reveals to us the events that had transpired in this disconsolate room last night. Foam at the mouth of the deceased clearly indicates the use of poison. Next to the victim, we notice a large dining plate which contains, you will observe, a huge block of cheese.
Oh.
1/2 of a sizable bar of soap. Meaningful? Indubitably. Why is this soap set so purposefully on the dish? Like the victim's last supper, in fact, yes. Could it be that the man was about to eat it? Of course. The fork reveals the answer.
How would he still be holding the fork? Right, doesn't your body just get all loosened up when you die? Right? That's why there's gross happenings when you die, because your whole body just unclenches everything. So how is he still holding the fork? Why is Soseki look like he killed him? It's the eyebrows. It's the shifty eyebrows. You know, he has really Greek eyebrows for a Japanese guy. Just saying. I see Greek... I recognize Greek eyebrows when I see him.
It appears that the young man's appetite was his undoing. Taking up arms at the fork form as his cutlery, the victim engaged in a deadly battle for his life.
You know, I'm happy to see the Sholmes boxing emoji again, but this... Bro, you're just air sparring in front of a corpse. Stop it. Have some respect!
Yet the struggle against his hunger was in vain, for in the end, it didn't even matter. He couldn't resist devouring the slippery feast. But London's foul soap is besmirched by foul poison. Yes, the victim's life was claimed by poison that tainted the contents of the plate.
Probably the drink, right?
The soap and the lather about the young man's mouth are too perfectly matched to ignore. The cause of death was clearly intoxication due to excessive ingestion of foul soap. Though personally, I have a greater interest in the taste of foul candle wax, of course.
What? What? What does that even mean? Poisoning from soap ingestion? It's a good question. I was like, if he just ate soap, wouldn't it just be suicide?
The cause of death identified, we proceed to Act 2, where we ponder the next question. Was this suicide or murder?
Soseki's-san, stop it, dude, stop! Act normal, act natural, my dude.
The audience will recall that death occurred during the victim's last supper. Did the man dine and die alone? The single teacup suggests the answer. To draw a conclusion on such a meager evidence would be foolish, however, certainly. The careful criminal could have absconded with his own cup to cover his tracks. Well, allow me to lift the veil of doubt, my dear fellow.
Oh my goodness.
Indeed, what reveals the answer, of course, is the broken lock. Though forced open now, at the time of the incident, this door was locked. And the sole key was in the victim's pocket. In other words, when the victim consumed the poison, he must have been alone. Alone was his inferior soap from whence wafted an inferior scent. And with that acrid aroma lingering in the air, the victim met his end in tragic solitude. We can take comfort only in the fact that his soul was well cleansed on its way to the hereafter. Oh my goodness.
He's so disrespectful. How are you so rude?
Thus concludes the final act of Sherlock Sholmes' great deduction.
There's just one thing, Mr. Sholmes.
You are disposed to identifying just one thing, aren't you, Mr. Naruhodo? Pray, what concerns you?
Well, no matter how hungry he was, do you really think the man would have eaten soap?
It is quite apparent that this man had barely a penny to his name. It is a curious thing, but to one so destitute, soap can suddenly appear quite irresistibly appetizing.
How extraordinary!
In truth, I have tried a little soap myself in the past.
You've eaten it, you mean?
My dear fellow, it was some time ago now. My postulation was that it would cleanse my gut. I am the great detective Herlock Sholmes. The year is 1900, and I would like to invent a colon cleanse. And I think to clean my colon, I need to ingest cleaner. Therefore, I should eat soap. There you go, you guys. I have invented probiotics. I've done it. I've cleaned out my digestive tract, and I now have a healthy gut. DIY probiotics of soap. I am a genius. Bow beneath my intelligence.
And did it?
And as I writhed in agony on the floor and spit the contents of my stomach, yes, I believe it did. The experience taught me a valuable lesson. Soap is quite poisonous. It has an unpleasant taste and leads to great discomfort. In summary, I cannot recommend it.
Believe me, I wouldn't eat it even if you did.
There's something that troubles me as well, actually.
Oh, what's that?
Why is Mr. Natsume tweaking out every time you say something? It's Mr. Natsume! And I couldn't help noticing him shudder and quivering out of the corner of my eye. Almost as if Mr. Schultz's deductions touched a nerve somehow. Nonsense.
Well, that clenched teeth episode didn't last.
I think, judging by Mr. Natsume's reaction, the great detective's deductions may need some gentle corrections in order to reach the actual truth.
Yes, Mr. Sholmes' observations and deductions are sometimes a little too sharp. He has a tendency to hit the nail on the side of the head and drive it into an obtuse angle. When he does that, it falls to us to straighten things out. No, I saw that little side-eye smirk. Susato, I saw it. Susato was like, I'm gonna straighten him out. Alright then, let's see what we can do.
Yes, we must pick out the key words in Mr. Sholmes' quite brilliant deductions and discreetly exchange them for something that makes a little more sense.
And if we can do that,
I'm sure we'll arrive at what Mr. Sholmes meant to say in the first place.
In that case, are you ready for the second performance of the day? Once again, my dear fellows, for your continued delight and wonder, let the curtain rise. For Herlock Sholmes' Logic and Reasoning Spectacular, Act 1.
course correction. Hold it, Mr. Sholmes. Not right. Use a poison. There's a large dining plate. Big old chunk of soap. Alright, the fork. What's up with the fork? Well, you can't deny that a fork implies the man was eating something or about to eat something.
Yes, that's true. If I were to decide to eat some soap, I should prefer to use a fork than attempt it with chopsticks.
And of course, only half the bar of soap is left on the plate.
But might there not be some other explanation? Something material that proves whether or not the man really ate some soap?
click on the teacup. Do you think he was drinking tea with the soap?
The cup's empty, so there's no way of knowing.
Ah, how about this for an idea? Perhaps the cup was full of water, and he was dissolving soap in it so he could gulp it down as much as possible?
Please remember that he may not have actually been the soap lover he's been made out to be.
Alright. I want to move around the crime scene. I want to move around. Let me move. I want to be a free bird. And there's the other half of soap. Let me click on the soap. Look, there's more soap on the floor here. Mr. Shamspear really must have dropped the soap. Really must have loved the stuff. What? Who said that?
Let's not jump to conclusions, Mr. Naruhodo. Look closely at the soap. Do you see that it would fit together perfectly with the half bar on the table?
What the? How can that be?
I think that they are two halves of the same bar that broke apart.
Do we click on the other half of the soap?
Take that!
Could it be that the man was about to eat it? Of course. The other piece of soap reveals the answer. It being the
other half of soap on the table, in short, the victim was not eating soap at all. But it's obvious, really, for no depths of hunger could drive any man to attempt to eat soap.
Ryunosuke's like, bro, you lying right now.
Even I, with my unquenchable thirst for practical knowledge, took only a single bite.
Well, that begs the question of how the man was poisoned, because there's no sign of any food on the table.
An excellent observation, Mr. Naruhodo. One that furnishes us with the answer we seek. For London's foul soap is besmirched by a foul poison.
Alright. Tainted the contents of the plate. Mr. Sholmes is still pushing the soap argument then.
Perhaps he's suggesting the man licked the soap rather than ate it.
If soap in London is that poisonous, I don't think I want to be washing my hands with it. But there are no signs of any food in this room at all.
Of course, food isn't the only thing that passes people's lips, is it?
Present the teacup, right? Yes, the victim's life was claimed by the poison that tainted the teacup.
Indeed, cups have been the vessel of choice for practicing poisoners over the centuries. Then it would appear that this victim drank every last drop.
There's no sign of food anywhere in the room.
Which leads us to the immutable conclusion. The cause of death was clearly intoxication due to the ingestion of poison contained in this teacup.
Poison in the tea. We solved it. Boom, easy. The suicide or murder?
The audience will recall.
The Western vessel for infused hot drinks again. It's already featured heavily in our deductions so far.
Yes, we can imagine that shortly before his death, Mr. Shamspear was having a drink of tea. There'd be nothing remarkable about that, but what troubles me
is Mr. Natsume's reaction when Mr. Sholmes suggested it. There's more to this deduction than it seems.
We must closely examine the scene of the crime again for some clues.
Why does he have two teacups? It's another Western vessel for infused.
It's a teacup! And it is too empty.
Given that he's actually holding this one in his hand,
we can assume that this is the cup from which Mr. Shamspear was actually drinking.
But if that's the case,
This changes everything. Everything we've deduced up to now is turned on its head. And I have a bad feeling about this. I almost don't want to say it. Yes, I know exactly how you feel.
Take that!
Did the man dine and die alone? This other teacup suggests the answer. Yes, there were 2 teacups in this room all along. In other words, this is a strong indication that they're at the victim's last supper. Bruce Fairplay, I recognize that chin anywhere. There was a guest present.
At the very least, we can say now with certainty, haha, that somebody else was here in this room last night taking tea with the victim.
What are you talking about? Utterly, unbelievably, unjustly unreasonable.
To draw a conclusion on such meager evidence would be foolish, however, certainly.
Do you mean to say you know exactly who was in the room at the time of the victim's death?
Indeed.
Broken lock. Now, I'm not sure I like where this deduction is going now. I'm afraid it's too late to go back to the halcyon days of eating too much soap. But the identity of the guest who was here last night when the victim passed away is something I have a very bad feeling about. Well, you can try to ignore your feelings, but we cannot ignore the truth, Mr. Naruto. No, I suppose not. Time to look around again. The books. Now, at first glance, it seems that the only things in this room are a makeshift stage and the costumes. I overlooked these 3 books initially. I wonder what they are. Let's see, the titles read The Picture of Monsieur Lacroix, Canterbury Yearnings, and A Meal for Gaborio. You know, I think these were the 3 books that we found outside, around the victim's corpse, but she didn't actually die. I think Mr. Natsume killed the jester. Wait, I'm sure I've heard those titles before. It could just be an incredible coincidence, but they're the exact same 3 books that Mr. Natsume purchased the other day. What? Yes, on the day of the unfortunate incident when Miss Green was stabbed. So Seki-san had just been to a bookshop and bought them, that's right. And now those 3 titles are here in the room of the victim. Yeah, Mr. Natsume claims to have never been here before. What does this mean, do you think? I really don't know what to make of it. Pile of familiar books.
Take that!
It was you, Soseki Natsume. Except not. We're gonna get you arrested right now, and then we're gonna have to bail you out. It'd be like that sometimes. Sorry, my friend. Indeed, what reveals the answer, of course, is this pile of familiar books.
Quite so, it's no mere coincidence that these 3 titles are here in this room. It's the link to the truth.
Mr. Natsume, you purchased these books 4 days ago at a secondhand bookshop. That's just a coincidence.
In that case, you will be able to bring these same 3 titles from your own room, will you not? In this very moment.
No, never, non-negotiable. If you can't bring your own copies here, it proves that these 3 books are in fact yours. Having purchased the books 4 days ago and returned to your lodgings, you were arrested the very next day. So you could conceivably have brought the books here on that evening, but you never mentioned that.
In other words, you could only have brought these 3 books here to the victim's room.
Dancing.
Last night, having returned to your lodgings after the trial concluded at the Old Bailey. In short, there is only one possible conclusion. The victim died here in this room last night as a result of poisoning.
And that same night, the victim had a visitor.
And that visitor
Was you, Mr. Soseki Natsume.
thus concludes the final act of Herlock Sholm's great deduction.
Twas elementary, my dear Soseki. I'm sorry, my dude. Sorry, bro.
Not again! Not again! Not again!
Not again! Well then, Mr. Natsume! It would appear you're gonna have to accompany me down to the yard! Again!
But wait! Hold your horses!
Yes?
Door, key, locked, entry, exit, entirely impossible!
Alternating between Gregson and Soseki blows out my throat. Oh, it's so bad. He's so flustered, he's even being stranger than normal. What? You think that's an alibi? You could have just made a copy.
What?
You live in the same building after all. You'd have plenty of opportunity, I'm sure.
But... Misery me!
Sorry, sir, you'll get your chance to give your side of the story later.
The facts speak for themselves, Mr. Mustache! You horrible Herlock Sholmes!
He really has found himself an arch rival now, hasn't he? Come on now, don't dilly-dally. Outside, there's a carriage waiting.
Welcome soon, Mr. Naruhodo Esquire. I never imagined I'd be in this position again, but you have to help me. Please, please, I'm innocent.
All right, I understand. We'll come to your cell later and talk about it.
And one more thing.
Oh, yes?
My poor little kitty cat. Please give him his breakfast for me.
Wagahai! I love Wagahai. Makes me want to get a cat named Wagahai. And so, his evil curse still apparently unbroken. So Seki-san found himself once again the prime suspect in a case of murder. Thanks to the incriminating deduction of the great detective. Actually, the original deduction would have just gotten him away with murder. Technically. If Soseki did do it, which we know he didn't, obviously. His original deduction would have just gotten them off scot-free. You kind of made the incriminating deduction, Rinosuke, but minor details, I suppose.
My dear fellow, that honor belongs to you!
Look, even Sholmes know that you did it. Well, at least that means Inspector Gregson is no longer here. Now we can touch stuff. We can examine the scene in more detail now. Yes, that's right. And of course... What?
Have you forgotten what the inspector mentioned before? It was the landlord, Mr. Garadeb, who discovered Mr. Shamspear.
Ah, Mr. John Garadeb, yes.
I expect we can find him in his sitting room on the top floor as usual.
Right, we must remember to go talk to him later. Then... Hey, Mr. Garadeb, we know we got your wife arrested for attempted murder, but how's it going, pal? We missed you. Alright. I want to go over here first, because I had such weird difficulty earlier.
This is some sort of makeshift stage, I think, isn't it?
Where does the audience sit, though, for the nightly Shakespeare performances?
Actors aspiring to the great stage must practice their art, Mr. Naruhodo, with or without an audience. In fact, on a related note, perhaps you should set up a mock bench for the defense in your office.
What?
Then you can practice your art every single day.
And I'll think about it if you promise to don a beard and play the role of the judge.
Well, if that would help you achieve your goal.
This I have to see.
I am very dedicated. Judge cosplay Susato.
Alright, now I can touch this lamp. And this is a gas wall light, isn't it? Must be connected to a gas pipe in the wall.
Gas lights, a gas stove. London really is a city of gas.
And now that I think about it, Mr. and Mrs. Garrett had it open fire on the top floor, didn't they?
Oh yes, you're right. I don't recall seeing a gas stove up there.
Well, I much prefer a real fire anyway. It's much cozier. Doo-doo-doo-doo. And here we have another disproportionately large machine. This looks like a meter of some kind.
Ah, this is a gas meter, I think. It seems that in this district, residents pay for gas as they use it with coins.
Ah, I see. Yes, now you've pointed it out, I can see that there's a slot here that looks just like it would take a coin. So you mean if you put a coin in here?
That's right. That would buy you about 2 hours of gas for lights and heating.
So, if you were a poor person with no money, you'd have to sleep in the freezing cold?
Yes, or if you were a scatterbrain with no change because you forgot to exchange your money at the bank.
Thank goodness there's no meter in our office. You know, Iris is on top of the bills.
As we've seen from the outside, the window is completely bricked up. A vestige of the former window tax that Britons had to pay.
What strange things they used to tax in Great Britain. I mean, making people pay for the number of windows they had in a property? Extraordinary.
It's heartbreaking to think of the poor having to block up their windows just to avoid an unaffordable tax. Oh!
What is it, Miss Susato?
If you look closely, a number of the bricks are loose.
Oh. Ooh. Oh yes, it looks as though an amateur has broken out a few of them just here. Was it Mr. Shamspear who did it, I wonder? Being the lodger renting this room.
Ah, look at this, Mr. Naruhodo. On the outside, there's a little ledge. And here's something on it.
What? Outside?
It's so cold outside. You can feel it through this gap.
It did snow all last night. It would be cold. But more importantly, what is it on the ledge out there? What are those snow-covered lumps?
It's more bars of soap.
Soap? What are the bars of soap doing lined up on a ledge outside the window?
I have no idea. But the pair of them look rather charming like that.
Still, that's very strange, isn't it? Bars of soap lined up outside the window? I think perhaps we should take one. There are two, after all.
Oh dear! I suppose we could. Oh, what's this? Look here at this soap.
Ah.
Do you see? In the middle there? There's a patch that's a different color. It's sort of transparent, but...
Some sort of fancy design, I suppose, only in Great Britain.
It looks like the Hinamaru flag of Japan, doesn't it? How wonderful! It's probably a very expensive brand.
Expensive? Then what's it doing in this ramshackle old room? Alright, we put the soap in the court record. Look at these extravagant bright costumes. Somehow they look out of place in this room with its grim, shady going-ons.
This one looks like a king's attire.
A king? I've always dreamt of being a king.
Oh, I think you'd be more suited to a feudal lord, a daimyo or such like.
With a chonmage top? Every Japanese man wishes he had a chonmage.
Oh, you'd look wonderful with one. And you already have the sword.
Can you imagine what would happen if I walked around the streets of London with a chonmage and a sword? What's a chonmage? You know what? I will look for us. Chonmage. I'm assuming it's the top knot. Oh, it's one of those things. Oh. I see. I see. It's like the ones the sumos wear. Ryunosuke look weird with a chonmage. I'm just distracted looking at pictures. Let me grab a nicer picture. Bing is not the best for images. Do. I like how it's showing modern ones too. Let me find. Nice little picture of Samurai Jack. Alright, save image to desktop. Alright. Hey, it's Joffrey. Hello, Joffrey. That's a chonmage. There's somewhere it's just showing it's like it looks like a man bun in some instances, but that in general is a chonmage. Alright. Let me close that tab, don't need it anymore. There we go. Accidentally closed the window. Alright, let's resume investigating. Got some broken glasses over there.
There's not much on these shelves, is there? Just this wine glass and bottle. And both of them are cracked.
Yes, not much use, are they? What's the matter?
Oh, I was just reminded of the Reaper, that's all.
Prosecutor Lord Van Zeeks?
Yes, he's so reckless with his wine glasses, I was thinking it's a waste and that he should donate some to the needy.
You can suggest it next time we meet. No, sure enough.
Van Zeeks, why do you throw away all your wine glasses? You know, there's people starving in China that would like to have that wine glass. Ah, one of the teacups that Mr. Shamspear and his guest drank from last night. But don't go drinking from them, Mr. Naruhodo. There's bitter poison inside.
I'm not planning on drinking any, don't worry. Anyway, the cups are both empty.
That's true. So, one was Mr. Shamspear's, and the other must be the cup that Mr. Natsume was drinking from.
But Soseki-san wasn't poisoned, of course. Perhaps we should take these so we can examine them in more detail later. Alright. We've stolen the cups. I don't want to touch the corpse. We're touching the corpse.
Oh, the poor man. So young to die. Do you suppose it was a very painful death, being poisoned as he was?
I don't know. All we can do now is hope that he'll be reborn to a better life.
Yes, I suppose you're right. I wonder... Do you think that putting our hands together in a Japanese prayer will help a British soul?
Sorry?
I made sure I had a reference at the ready for just an occasion as this, actually. You never know when you might stumble across a dead body. This book is entitled The Beginner's Guide to Praying for the Departed, the British Way. I'll just reread it now. One moment. Alright, I read the whole book.
There's quite a spine on that book, isn't there? Alright. Alright. We got everything here, I believe. What's that? No, we didn't. What's that?
What's this?
It looks like a part of an envelope, I think.
Yes, I think you may be right. Perhaps it was torn off when the letter was opened.
Is that significant?
Well, a little out of place, perhaps. When you look around the room, there's no sign of a letter or the rest of the envelope, in fact, is there?
Ah, she's right.
And yet, here we have the torn off end of an envelope. One of life's greatest mysteries. It just strikes me as unusual.
I agree. We'd better take this, just in case. Looks like you're having a good snoop around, eh? Oh, looks like you're having a good snoop around, eh? Inspector Gregson, back so soon?
And after I threw that little Japanese fella in the clink, I went and reported this to the investigation division. In 5 minutes' time, this place will be cordoned off by the yard.
Oh, I see. Well, we'd better be leaving then.
Poor Mr. Natsume must be feeling very low, being back in a cell again so soon.
I'm sure we should,
Excuse me? What's wrong, Mr. Naruhodo? Ah!
Out, out, brief candle, lies but a walking shadow, a poor player. That struts and fruts his hour upon the stage, and then is heard no more. Now, how soundeth the next part?
It is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing.
Indeed, oh happy day.
What?
What? Walking Dead?
The fella isn't dead at all!
What was that nonsense he was saying, though?
I think, yes, it was from William Shakespeare's Macbeth. His soliloquy from Act 5, Scene 5.
Shakespeare? So it was that the victim, Mr. William Shakespeare, came back to life. If the man had indeed been poisoned, it transpired that it hadn't killed him. He was taken by emergency carriage to a nearby hospital for treatment, and Inspector Gregson evicted us from the scene of the crime, whatever that now was. Hey, it's that dude, there he is, looking in the window, not suspicious at all. Not suspicious. Alright, Popeye, what are you doing back there?
What do you think will happen now?
Good question. What a strange situation for Mr. Natsume, arrested for murder, but then the victim came back to life.
I think perhaps the victim was never dead in the first place. It seems very likely that Mr. Shakespeare did consume poison as we deduced, but it was an accident, attempted suicide, or attempted murder. Until the truth can be established, I imagine the police will keep Mr. Natsume in custody.
I suppose so. Let's hope it doesn't come to anything more than the night in the cells. Oh, what's this? What's that man doing over there? He looks like he's trying to see into Soseki-san's lodgings.
Is something wrong, Mr. Naruhodo?
Excuse me, could we have a word? Ah! He just ran off.
I feel sure that I've seen that man somewhere before. Where was it?
I do too, but I don't remember. I know we've clicked on this bike before, but I'll do it again.
There seems to be a bicycle outside the Garadeb residence. I read that bicycles are extremely popular all over Great Britain at the moment, in fact.
That one seems very warped, though, especially the front wheel. Is that to make it more of a challenge to ride, do you think?
No, I'm afraid that may be a result of the rider's incompetence. For the front wheel to be so badly warped, I'm afraid the rider may have been similarly afflicted.
Then there's a good chance Mr. Natsume has been practicing on this bicycle, I think. Wow.
Oh dear, I fear you may be right.
Leave this man alone. Let's click on the snowman. Why has somebody built this snowman on some sort of pedestal, do you think?
That's not a pedestal, Mr. Naruhodo. That's a part of the snowman's body.
Really? But it already has a perfectly good body.
Well, it's true that British snowmen are usually made with 2 balls of snow. Perhaps this is a foreigner.
And now we're looking at him as if he's strange. Poor man. I know how he feels.
If anything, it's Japanese and British 2-ball snowmen that are the strange one, isn't it? After all, real people do have 3 sections, head, torso, and legs.
Do you ever think that perhaps you think about things too much? Let's go. Oop. New location. Can't go in there. Sholmes is sweet. Go talk to Natsume for a little bit. Nope. Alright. We will not be talking to Mr. Natsume. Thank you, game. Garrideb's room. Here we are again, the eccentric landlord's eccentric top floor abode.
We're here because Mr. Garrideb's the one who discovered the incident this morning, don't forget!
Yo, what's up, Lunatone? Ah, you chaps, eh? Yes, good morning, sir. Thank you for your cooperation in court yesterday. It was quite a trial, and as much for Mr. Garrideb as anyone, really. Came straight back in after all that business at the Bailey yesterday. Didn't expect to wake up to more bally nonsense this morning.
I wonder if you wouldn't mind telling us exactly what happened, Mr. Garrideb?
Yes, I suppose you'd like to know all about that dead loss of an actor chap in the ground floor room. Those were exactly Inspector Gregson's words, weren't they? It must have been a real shock for you this morning. I hear that you discovered what had happened. Ah, well, that hopeless actor chap rises at 5 o'clock sharp every morning without fail. But at 5:30 this morning, he still hadn't lit the gas. So I went down and knocked on his door. No bally answer.
And that's when you broke into his room by kicking down the door?
Well, called on that rum-looking Japanese chap to do the grunt work, of course. Wasn't it a little premature to kick the door down? Man could have just overslept by half an hour.
That's very true, Mr. Naruhodo. If 30 minutes is oversleeping warranted such behavior, I'd have to kick your door down every morning. I'm a Susato, take down that door!
You know, better safe than sorry and all that. Is it just me, or is he avoiding our gaze now all of a sudden?
Except that it was a sorry situation indeed that you found on the far side of the door.
Mr. Shamspear. I like it. The victim's name is Mr. Shamspear, I believe. Is that right? Yes, William Shamspear. Took the ground floor room 3 months ago now.
And how would you describe him?
In a word, destitute.
Destitute?
Well, let's face it, the only redeeming feature of that room is the cheap rent. Anyone wanting to live in a place like that is either broke or has a bally screw loose. So hard to choose which category Soseki-san would fall into. Why are you ripping on him? He's just trying to live his life with his cat and his books. What's all this hate towards crazy cat ladies? And by crazy cat ladies, I mean crazy Japanese author that are dudes.
Mr. Naruhodo, that's a little rude.
He was doing research as well. Research? Into what? Shakespeare, of course. Shakespeare. Read a few plays with the old bard myself, you know? Romeo and Hamlet and all that.
Yes, William Shakespeare is England's most highly regarded classical playwright and author. He's known as Sao in Japanese, you know, and many of his works have already been translated.
And it seems incredible that Shakespeare was shortened to Sao, though. Someone was too heavy-handed there. And there were a lot of costumes in the victim's room, actually, weren't there?
Of course, Mr. Natsume is a scholar of English literature as well. I imagine he and Mr. Shamspear would have had much in common.
Shakespeare interpretation disagreement leads to shocking murder. Let's hope it's not that.
Mr. Naruhodo! Really? How rude!
Why'd my voice crack? Oh, because it's 1:30 in the morning, probably. Let's learn about yesterday's events. And after Mr. Natsume's trial yesterday, you came straight back here, I believe, didn't you? Did you notice anything strange between then and this morning? Well, now, must have been about 6 in the evening by the time I got home. Snow was coming down rather heavily, as I remember. It was completely dark already. That failed actor chap was out at the time. Mr. Garadeb noticed there was no light from his room or something, I suppose. Couldn't summon the energy for anything much, so I just sat in front of the fire up here. It was after 8 before Shamspear got back. And the chap was up till past 1 in the morning, I'll have you know. Suppose he met his end sometime after that. I was asleep by then, so I'm rather in the dark there. Well, thank you. That was very illuminating. Is everything alright, Mr. Sato?
Well, I was just thinking it's a little strange. That's all. Mr. Garadeb, you were up here in your room all evening, if I've understood correctly.
Not a big fan of the stairs. Not with his blasted leg.
Then, how is it that you seem to know? The precise movements of your tenant on the ground floor, I mean.
Ah! That's a very good point. And I can't imagine that you could hear noises from the ground floor all the way up here. Does this old man like to spy on his tenants? Is that it? Nice, eh? I know what you're thinking. It's a bally outrage. I'm ex-military, don't you know? I don't go around spying on my tenants. Why would I?
Then how did you know, Mr. Garadeb?
It's the gas woman. The gas tells me everything. The gas? What on earth do you mean, sir? How can the gas tell you anything, let alone everything? Well, as you're probably aware, gas is supplied to the building by pipes. Yes, I'd more or less worked that out.
Every room in the building is connected by a single pipe to the gas main outside. And the gas company supplies gas to properties via the main.
Yes, I understand that too. Let me see if I can explain. Let's say I was to light the gas lamps up here. What do you suppose would happen? Well, obviously the room would get brighter. Exactly, but at the same time, the lights in all the other rooms of the house would dim for a moment. What? They dim? Why?
Perhaps it's because when you light a gas lamp, it briefly uses more gas than usual. That reduces the amount of gas in the pipe for the other lamps that are connected to it. That might explain why the other lamps dim momentarily, mightn't it?
Yes, of course, because everything's connected to a single supply pipe.
Is that supposed to happen, though? It sounds rather undesirable.
Jolly good point. Fact is, the gas company's pipes in his pot's pretty hopeless. Long worn out. Barely got any gas in them to start with. Opposite's also true, of course. Extinguish the lamps up here and they glow brighter than the rest of the house. Ah, right, I see. So by watching the flickering of the lamps in one room, you can determine what's happening elsewhere. You've got it?
Oh, of course, because when people come back home in the evening and before they go to sleep at night, what they're guaranteed to do is either light or put out their lamps and fires.
Clever. In point of fact, the room on the ground floor and the one above it use slightly different amounts of gas. By watching the lights in here closely, I can work out almost exactly what's going on in the whole house.
Gosh! That's fascinating, Mr. Garadeb, absolutely fascinating!
Oh well, nothing to it really. And I can't really see that it's going to help us with the case either. What I'd like to know is why Mr. Garadeb is so interested in what his tenants are up to in the first place. And I feel like there's more to it than idle curiosity. To be fair, he's living with a couple of nutcases, so I too would like to keep close eyes on what they're doing. I don't know if I'd feel safe living in a house with Shamspear. He seems really creepy. He's a really weird chin. I like Natsume. Everyone here thinks he's super weird, though. He is a bit odd, I'll give you that, but I don't think he's constantly up to something like everybody else does, but I can see it. If every single English person in Great Britain thinks Natsume's up to something, and he was living at my house, I'd probably think he was up to something too. I'd probably get worried, like, even if I didn't, if everyone else thinks he's up to something, I'd be like, but what if they're right, though? What if he is up to something? Let me keep a close eye on him. Well, I think we've done as much investigating here as we can, I think. Perhaps we ought to go to the prison and speak with Mr. Natsume again.
A good idea!
Alright. Now we can go to the prison. Can I click on stuff in your house again? I can, technically. Do I want to, though? He didn't fix this mess. Okay. Let's go hang out at the prison. Party in the prison. Oh my goodness.
Look, Mr. Naruhodo! Mr. Natsume! Have the police finished questioning you now?
Locum student Mr. Naruhodo Esquire.
Oh, yes?
What is he? Tell me! Is he a ghost? Is he here to haunt me?
Let me guess. You're talking about Mr. Sholmes.
He actually calls himself a great detective, Mr. Natsume, not a ghost.
But his diabolic deductions, they're not of this world. They've left me. Cursed! I'm cursed, I tell you.
Well, that sort of hurts.
Credit where credit is due, Mr. Naruhodo. You were heavily involved in the deduction, too.
Yes, moving on, we have some wonderful news.
Oh,
The victim that we all thought was dead has come back to life again.
Now, in the absolute worst case, you can only be tried for attempted murder. That's great, isn't it, Mr. Natsume?
it's terrible.
Oh!
I'm stuck in a cell, suffering for some silly wrong end of the stick. You did it, didn't you? Confess. You're a killer. Why the mustache? Constant questions.
I'm sorry to hear that.
That selfish shyster. Make up your mind. Are you dead or alive? If you are going to come back to life, why bother dying? Wickedly wishy-washy William.
Well, it seems likely that Mr. Shamspear was never actually dead in the first place.
Yes, that might make sense. And I'm pleased that he's alive, of course. Our lively debate last night was much fun. I'd be sad to think it was our last.
Oh!
Oops.
Mr. Natsume, does this mean that you did see the victim last night? You met with Mr. Shamspear, didn't you?
I'm not saying another word. I demand to have a lawyer present.
Who do you think I am?
Please, Mr. Natsume.
We need to hear your side of the story.
Why am I cursed like this?
Can you tell us exactly what happened last night then, Mr. Natsume?
There's nothing to tell. But, Mr. Naruhodo Esquire, I'm eternally grateful to you for helping me with that accursed case yesterday.
That case that saw poor Miss Green hospitalized after she ended up with a knife in her back.
It's hard to believe that was only yesterday.
After the trial was over, I trudged my weary way back to my lowly lodgings. And that evening at past 9 it must have been, I visited Mr. Shamspear.
So you did go to the victim's room then?
As we feared.
I didn't do anything wrong. I'd never been to his room before. It was the first time.
Then what made you decide to go?
I bumped into him when I arrived back at the house. We got chatting and it developed into a discussion. But he had to go out, so I bade him farewell.
That ties in with what Mr. Garadeb said, that the victim went out and came back after 8.
We met again later that evening, at around 9 or just after, when I took him some nice tea I'd brewed as a gift.
So it was you who brought the tea that had clearly been drunk at the scene then?
And I suppose you were discussing the works of Shakespeare, were you?
Yes, that's right. That's exactly right. Romeo and Juliet, who was the stronger? It was a delightful debate.
I'm sure.
Such a stimulating subject, Shakespeare.
And the debate became very heated, so you slipped poison into Mr. Shamspear's tea?
No, never, not at all. Team Juliet won! That was me! And when I left his room, the flamboyant fella was fighting fit! I swear it, categorically!
Cursed existence. Mr. Natsume, you often say the same thing about yourself, I've noticed. That you have a cursed existence.
I'm sure I've mentioned this to you before, but I've been here in Great Britain for a year now, and in that time, I've learned that it's no place for me.
It can be very trying to live in a foreign land and adapt to the ways of another culture.
There are foreigners everywhere I look, and they all stare at me, they all laugh. That's the impression I get whenever I go out. It makes me scared to leave my room. Which is why I've become a recluse. But even in my room, I find no respite for my fears. I've moved more times than I can remember. And then, 1 week ago, I moved onto Briar Road.
But why? I mean, why did you choose that place? It doesn't seem very comfortable.
Because the rent is cheap. I have so little money, it spoke to me.
The rent?
Obviously. There's a reason why it's cheap. Because the room is cursed.
Cursed? Cursed how?
The previous occupant, the man who lived there before I took the room, died there.
Oh no!
He was only a young man, but one morning he was found dead and no one could explain why.
Surely no one would want to live in a room with a history like that.
I didn't. When the letting agent recommended the place, I wavered. But I want books, and books cost money. A horrible history is a small price to pay. When I realized it would mean I could buy more books, I signed the lease like lightning.
Brave or blinkered.
But after I moved in, I soon came to realize what I'd done. I realized how horrible that room's history really was.
Gosh, was it really so awful? How did the room's horrible history affect you, Mr. Natsume? What happened?
At first, it was just the feeling of beady eyes boring into my back, watching me.
Do you think that might just have been your mind playing tricks on you?
No. My mind doesn't know any tricks. It was someone else. It's been a long nightmare ever since I was given the keys to the place.
A nightmare? You've been having bad dreams, you mean?
All the souls who died in that room lean over me in my sleep and try to strangle me.
That really is horrible.
And now I come to think of it, it happened again last night too. The very same night that Mr. Shamspear was writhing in agony from the poison in his body. I was on the verge of being suffocated silently by those miserable spirits in my room.
You simply must move out of that room as soon as possible.
Yes, you're right, I know it. And that's why. I'm already searching for the next room with a history to call home.
I think perhaps you should try to avoid accommodation with any kind of history at all. Otherwise, I'm scared that you yourself may become history.
Ooh, Susato-san knows how to make the man listen.
Of course. Mr. Lord of the Manor is worried about the curse on my room as well.
You mean Mr. Garadeb?
Yes, he knows that if people keep dying there, he'll never be able to rent it out again.
Well, that's true. I, for one, wouldn't go near the place.
Perhaps that may explain why the landlord pays so much attention to the gas lamps and his tenants' movements.
You mean because he's worried about their well-being? He does seem to have an unusually keen interest in the amount of gas in the pipes. There must be a reason why he keeps such close tabs on the occupants of his let rooms.
What do you mean? He pays so much attention to the gas lamps?
Oh dear, no! It's nothing to do with you, Mr. Natsume! Please forget I said anything!
No, now you're talking about me behind my back as well.
What's important is that Mr. Shamspear isn't in fact dead at all. Once he's come around and he's able to tell us what happened, we'll be able to get you released.
Yes, please. Oh, I do hope you're right. Excuse me.
Excuse me?
Inspector Gregson.
I couldn't help overhear what you just said. And on that note, I have some good news and some bad news.
Oh,
Which you want first?
always, every time, the bad news comes first. When hope is all you have, hold on to it. That's my guiding principle.
Right, well, in that case, the good news it is.
Huh?
Sorry, but it's just a lot easier to explain everything that way.
Then why did you ask me my preference?
As you might have heard, the victim, Mr. Shamspear, was just unconscious. He's come round now.
Yes, we saw it happen in all its terrifying glory.
He's still being treated by the doctors, but we've managed to get a written statement from him already. Oh, isn't that wonderful, Mr. Natsume?
Oh, thank goodness. It's all over then. I can leave this somber cell.
Sorry, no, that's not on the cards.
What?
Why ever not, Inspector? Mr. Shamspear has implicated someone as being responsible for what happened last night.
Implicated someone?
Oh dear.
You don't mean...
I'm sorry to say I do, yes. He's pointed the finger at you, Mr. Natsume. My sweet poison did he seeketh to end my life. That wickedest Kate, Soseki Natsume.
No.
I'm afraid you'll be appearing as court as planned. You'll be one to make the necessary preparations.
No.
And so, once again, Soseki-san found himself having to take the dock in the Old Bailey. Whether his room was haunted or whether he was just terribly unlucky, I knew I had no choice. The following day, I would represent him in court and do my utmost to break the curse that blighted him. To be continued. So that was investigation part 1. I'm assuming we're going into trial part 1 next. Bit of a short investigation period here. To be fair though, I don't know if we can... Oh, we skipped investigation parts 1 and 2. Okay, so when we had the autosave probably about halfway into this episode, I was like, this is really short. And I was wondering if it was going to cut off. It looks like it was investigation part 1 and part 2. Okay, so we had a little twofer here. Little twofer. All right, so that's good to know. But that does it here for the first 2 parts of the memoirs of the Clouded Kokoro. Wonder why Mr. Jester is flipping the script here on Mr. Natsume. I do think the little Popeye-looking dude has something to do with it, especially because him and the Jester got into a fight in the middle of the street, and we ran over to see what the deal was, and they're like, oh, it's fine, and they went their separate ways during, of course, Great Ace Attorney Adventures. So I'm curious, especially because he's creeping in the window. I wonder if those are the eyes that Natsume feels peering into him as he's creeping in the window. He's taking some bricks out to stare into people's houses, which is really, really weird. But yes, I'm interested to see what's going on here. Why is there so much soap? I have no idea. Has to have something to do with the soap, right? Because it's not going to be the teacups. Natsume brought the teacups. I don't know. I have no theories here aside from Yellow Popeye had something to do with it. So let me know your thoughts on what's going on here in episode 2 of the Great Ace Attorney 2 Resolve in the comment section down below. If you guys enjoyed the video, which of course I hope you did, don't forget to go on ahead and hit that like button. And of course, if you're not yet part of the Allie's Treasure Trove family, I'd love to have you join me. Make sure you go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And although I normally feel like I have other additional info that I include at the end, I'm really, like I said, I have no theories aside from the Yellow Popeye guy. Really, really suspicious card, really suspicious character, and I definitely think he has something to do with it. What that will be? Not sure yet, Because if they were beefing before, why wouldn't they say anything? Maybe they're in cahoots. Maybe they're up to some kind of weird scam. Maybe it's an insurance scam. I have no idea. So if you guys have any ideas, thoughts, anything like that, leave that down below, because I honestly have nothing at the moment. But with that, that does finish off Investigations Part 1 and 2 here. So, of course, before I get on out of this video, since we're wrapping things on up here, do have to give an extra special shout-out and a big thank you to all of my patrons over on Patreon. Thank you so much, you all, for your above and beyond continued support. I really, truly do appreciate it. You guys are the best. Thank you so much. Do have 4 Ultimate Excavators, Jack Perez, Keith Muta, Mako, and Stephen Olivo, 3 Gemstone Miners, Andon, Mark Mardini, and Stephen Bly, and 1 Crystal Collector of John Michek. But again, thank you so much to all of my patrons, whether you're on a tier in which I say your name at the end of every video or not. Really, truly do appreciate your guys' above and beyond support. So thank you so much for that, you guys. Like I said, really appreciate it. But yes, that does it here for me in episode number 23. I am going to do some stuff, but I'm not going to record another episode here tonight. So I'll let you guys know in the community tab if I do manage to get another one recorded in the morning. Otherwise, I'll have to be taken off Thursday just because there's so much on my schedule to do today. It's absolutely insane. But I'll let you guys know that later this afternoon. But thank you so much for watching this one here, and I hope you'll join me next time as hopefully we get to figure out, you know, a little bit, give us a little inkling, giving us a breadcrumb, please, so that way I can have some sort of semblance of what's going on here. I am completely lost in terms of who to point the finger at. So I'm curious to see. So hopefully next time, I hope you'll join me as we potentially solve a little bit of the mysteries here on Allie's Treasure Trove. But thank you so much for watching, everybody. Take care, and I hope to catch you in the next episode. Bye!